Hello, Diane here from Stitchscape with a lovely quilt of Mandy's. This video is mainly a little bit of an ad hoc one, testing these microphones for a start. I've got this quilt that's presenting a few issues for me, and the weather was nice and sunny, so I thought it'd be bright, but it's considering the fact it's November, what is it, the 3rd? It's not too bad, so I'm just going to run with it and test it. Here I am. I'm hoping the audio is great. I've done several tests and everything's been fine. So yeah, just tested the red light was on. So let's get into it. Mandy's quilt is on my long arm frame. See, I don't have to stay close to the camera anymore. I can move away because of the microphone. Hopefully, we will see. It's a gorgeous William Morris fabrics mainly. Log cabin and quarter house steps quilt. I'll hopefully get a photo or something and put it there. If not, I've just waved in the air for nothing. This is all very natural on this YouTube page. This is me helping and showing. This is not some producer of a movie. This is me in my raw, fresh, wanting to attract people to the lovely thing I do and inspire people and educate them in this case. This particular version is a little bit of education and sharing of news, both for non-long armers and for long armers. Right, the quilt is beautiful. It's pieced brilliantly. It lays so flat and gorgeous. But the couple of challenges it presents me are there's hints of purple in some sashing all over the quilt. Let me see. Let me move you forward a little bit. Get prepared to wiggle. I might have been better handheld in this, but we will see. Now, if I move it down, see there, you can see the purple, and there's a lot of that running around like frames around the different blocks. Now, those aren't an issue. Those are perfectly fine. It's because her daughter loves purple as well. Where one of my first issues comes in is along the edge. You prepared to wobble? All the way around the edge of the quilt is a border which is barely an inch long, inch wide. So it doesn't give me much leeway at all when I'm basting it on. As you can maybe see, there's some holes in it already because I basted it on and I was unhappy with where I'd basted it on due to the top. Now, let me just pause for 1 second. Actually, do you know what? I'll bring you round to the back with me. Yeah, so that very narrow purple, oh, it's not straight, very narrow purple border all the way around the quilt doesn't give me much leeway to baste it. By the time I've done my basting about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, there's already quite a bit of that purple border disappearing. But another matter I have to deal with is the fact that this is a double-sided quilt, which is going to be amazing. When the quilt's finished, it's going to be double-sided, basically. Because, again, I'll hopefully find a photo of the backing and I'll put it here. It's going to be great, but I'm just telling you about the things I have to process and manage even before I begin any quilting whatsoever. I was asked on Friday actually by Barbara, because I have social sessions on Fridays and Saturdays, and the ladies who came to the Friday social, one of them, Barbara, is making a Irish chain quilt with William Morris fabrics. So since I had this over the frame, at least it wasn't loaded at the time, I thought, oh, Barbara might enjoy seeing it because she obviously loves the fabric, so she'd love to see this quilt, and it is so well made. And they came in and looked at it, and Barbara actually asked me, and she said, Diane, do you get nervous about long arming, you know, quilting other people's quilts? And my response was, well, no, I don't. but that's mainly because by the time I actually get to do the quilting, I've done a pile of prep work and thought work on how the quilt's loaded, what thread, well, we discussed thread colours with Mandy, whose quilt it is. But there's a lot of thought and that gone on beforehand, before I even start quilting, and particularly so with this type of projects that's double-sided. Double-sided quilts are fabulous because you get double wind, don't you? If you get a bit of a mark on one side, you can soon turn it over and use it on the other side, can't you? So that's great, but in this particular case, there's a few things I've got to line up. I've got to try and match the front of the quilt to what's on the back of the quilt the best I can, and I'm just going to show you some of the methods I'm using to help me try and achieve that goal, is what I'm doing here. So let me go round to the back, and hopefully because of this microphone all my audio will stay completely the same. Let's move this right out here. There we go. Oh, the sun's come out. Oh, let me watch my tray on the floor with all my stuff on it so I don't trip. Yeah, here we are at the back of the long arm. So because you've seen the photo, and I might even put it again here, of the backing, along the top there is a purple, let me just bring that round, out of sight just for 1 minute. I just need to bring this round now so I can show you what I've done at the back. And to show you a bit of the back. Let's move you around. I'll pause it for a second while I move you around so you don't get all the wobbliness. Okay, here we are at the back, and I haven't started quilting or anything. You maybe can see some purple thread along there. That was where I just basted the wadding down to try and give me a straight line. You don't need my head at the minute. This is more important. And initially I had, for some reason, basted the quilt top down just underneath that. But then I realised actually that's not so great, because right on the top of her quilt she would have this seam, and there'd be a tiny bit of this and a tiny bit of the purple, and I thought that's not going to look great. It's not going to look good at all at the top of the quilt. So what I've done is I unpicked my basting, which is no problem because they're about 1/2 inch long. If you can see some of these, let me show you. They're pretty long stitches. I set my handy quilter Moxie, there she is, Lady Mollington. I set her onto a manual mode, and I move the machine at a rate where I know I will get long stitches. That's what I have to do on this machine. Okay, so yeah, if I had stitched this quilt top coming from the front, this is just trying to show you that's on the front, and then this is where my back stitching, my bobbin stitchings will show, of course. If I had stitched that top on along there, I would have a tiny, about 1/4 inch of this backing showing. So what I've decided to do now is I've pinned from the front. Let me make sure before I continue that you can see some of that. Oh, wobble, wobble. Let's move you in. I'm hoping you can see. There's a pin there, and there's a pin there, and there's a pin there. Okay, I haven't finished all the way along. I'll show you what I mean about doing that in a second. So what those pins are marking is where the top of this purple band is that goes along the top of the back of the quilt. It's not all purple, but that's the top really of the back of the quilt. This is excess fabric that I had to add on. It wasn't there when Mandy handed it to me, but I've had to add some more backing on, otherwise I wouldn't have enough fabric to load the quilt on. I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's what I've decided to do. So where those pins are, aka there, they mark where the top of that seam is. So now when from the front, I will be able to see those pins, and I will place the top of my front so it goes about there, because I don't really have enough length. We'll deal with that in a minute. So I'm going to sew the quilt top so that the top of it goes about there, so that it will still have the purple showing and not a little bit of this as well. It's a little bit tricky to explain, but the long and short of it for wobble. The long and short of it for non-longarmers is that if you do have a piece backing, it does create more problems for your longarmer. Your longarmer may never have to do that. But what would have helped in this case is if Mandy had given me much more of a border up here. So the purple of the backing, that could have done with being all the way to the edge of her backing, so that I had more room to play with. So there was less risk of having that. It's an Adidas Hadar fabric, actually. Some of you may recognize it. So instead of having some of this showing possibly above the purple, if she'd had this purple all the way to the edge of her backing, it would have been much easier for me to handle it and to try and align them. As it is, I'm going to do my best, of course. Like you say, doing these pins and marking to try and gauge where my quilt top should be placed so that it's almost aligned with the piecing on the back. Yeah, so don't let it put you off, because she did her backing like this to use up the fabrics, which is fab, because she had so much left after doing the quilt top. And it's a big quilt top. It's 78 by nearly 90. So it's a big quilt. But there's just a few things that, because she'd made this before she got in touch with me. So it's just some things you need to consider if you do want to do a piece backing. To help out the longarmer align everything the way that you would want it to be maybe aligned. So it's just a helpful hint for the longarmer, and also for help you get the result that you're after. And it does possess its challenges. Okay, I'm going to pause you a bit now, and I'm going to go back round to the front of the quilt where I can show you where I mean about the pins, these pins that I'm showing, and how I will align the top of the quilt with those pins. Here we go, back at the front. So what I need to do now, as you can see my quilt top is flapping, is because I'd moved the backing on a little bit so that you could see the back section I was referring to. So now I need to move the backing back down the frame, and so you can see where those pins are. I'll just do that on the side. So no, that on and that clamp off. Moving this left one to turn the backing that way to bring it all down towards you as such. And you can see those pins maybe there. So I need to bring those so they're within the throat space. It's a bit tricky for you to see. I've closed some of the curtains because, of course, the sun's caused me a night. Tricky now with visuals. But anyway, this is just a test video. It's fine. There we go. You never want your quilt sandwich to be too tight on the frame. I just had a bit of a wobble test. That's right. That's good. because if it's too tight on the frame, it's, when the quilt is finished, it'll sort of go like that. So you don't want the 3 layers, the quilt top, the wadding and the backing, you don't want those 3 layers to be too tight. The idea is with these frames is that it's keeping those 3 layers all at the same pressure, but it still takes, it still takes some concentration from the long armor to make sure that happens, and adjustments. So it's not just something that happens instantly. It does need working on. Okay, so now I'm going to move you again so that you can see along the side, because I think that will give you a better lineup of what I'm doing with the quilt top. Okay, now you can just see the quilt top on the frame, and I am here. You need to be focusing on the fabric, not on me. So now, like what I said I'm going to do is I'm going to move my quilt top so the top of the purple fabric is going to go and touch just underneath where I've placed those pins I was referring to. I did that from the back, so it lines up with the backing of this quilt. And I think what is maybe best for me to do, I will get another pin, I think, and they're round the back of the quilt. Dun, dun, dun. Don't you love these as well? It's one of those magnetic ones. They're absolutely brilliant for the long arm, because they will just look there or on the arm like that. They're brilliant. And they're great big long, let me see, can I get it for you? There. I put it, where's the best place for you to see it? There. They are long pins. I'd say it's nearly 2 inches long, I think. And they are really firm, which is what I need on the long arm when I'm pinning from this distance, and they grab a lot of fabric, so they do a lot of good in short amount of pins, which is always a good thing. So now we do that one. I don't think you can see that one. You'll see this next one now. There we go. And it'll just mean slowly. So I'm not so, normally I would just do a plumb line, trying to keep the top of my quilt as straight as possible. But for today, I definitely need to be making sure that this quilt top lines up as best I can with the top of the backing piecing. Load of funny old words being used in this video. But there you go. I won't do it all the way along, but that now gives me a better chance of the quilt top being aligned with the quilt backing. There we go. I've moved the quilt back a little bit. I'll finish the rest of that off in a minute. One little piece I have referred to quickly here is, one little point, is making sure that your backing is at least 4 inches bigger than your quilt top when you send your quilt to a long armor. If you're providing the wadding, obviously the wadding and the backing both need to be at least 4 inches bigger than your quilt top. Talk to your long armor, because in my case, I've only got a small long arm. My frame is only 8 foot wide. Many long arms are at least 10 foot long. So mine's a real baby one. So I have to be careful. So if anybody's quilt's over 80 inches, their piecing has to be bob on, because then I've only got like the 6 inches to play with. So then the fabric that's excess on the side of each quilt is less. So it just makes it harder. Well, I have to manage the quilt in a different way to make sure that it goes straight down as the quilt is wound up and ends up on this pole here. All ends up wound up onto there. Yeah, definitely talk to your long armor about your specific quilt size. And actually another thing, measure your quilt, get it in the lounge, get it on a bed, measure it. So when the long armor says to you, how big is your quilt. You don't just say it's a double bed size, because that doesn't help. Say exactly what the measurements are, so the longarmer can advise you with how big to make your backing and your wadding. Many longarmers provide a wadding, but knowing the size can help us advise you and help you get the best result. That's what we're here for, to help you get the best result. Okay, I'm going to start recording and I'm going to see how this all went, and I will get my little buddy, who usually sits on the phone frame, the lights frame. Him and I will say bye, and we'll see if this here microphone has done a good job of recording my audio and making this a video that you can hear properly. We will see.